Hey, what's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thank you so much for hanging out, and today I'm going to be doing a video talking about underrated EDH cards part 5. And when I say underrated, I just mean that the people that I traditionally play with, that I might not see these cards, and so obviously I'm talking from a very small, like, you know, point of view. Like, these might be cards that are really heavily played in your area, and that's totally fine, but this is just really truthfully meant to be a fun video where I talk about 10 cards. All of my other videos that I've done in this series will be listed in the down bar below. A lot of these are budget cards too, which is awesome, because everyone likes a good deal on cards, so let's hop into it. The first card I want to talk about is Zhur-Taa Druid, and I cannot say that word. Droid. It sounds like I'm saying droid from Star Wars. I can't say this word. I don't know what it is. Okay, this card's awesome, and I actually got the inspiration to talk about this from my friend Travis because he was playing it in one of his decks, and he's like, this card is so good. Why don't people play it? And I was like, right. This card's awesome. I love that it's a mana dork. It's a 1/1, like, you know, he's like in Bolt's vicinity, you know, but like, that's okay. This is the really good part, because not only is he a mana dork, but it says whenever you tap him, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Like, it's just annoying. I feel like if you're in this color combination and you're already running a mana dork, like, this is like a good one to have. Run this over another mana dork, or run both, basically, because it gets you a green to your pool. So it's kind of limiting in that way, but it's like whenever you tap, you get to deal damage to something. Overall, this is an awesome card. Okay, the second cards that I don't see a lot, and this is a part of a like series of, what is it when you have like all 5 colors have like their own whatever, I don't know what that's called, but the Liege cards. I think the Liege cards are awesome, and they're so strong. One thing I really like about this is I feel like god type of decks are something that's kind of popular, and like getting devotion and things like that, and I think if you're running any sort of like those, these are really good for that because they do offer you you know, dual of like whatever color it is, and they're all, I think, 4 mana, I believe. Maybe, yeah, I think they're all no, some of them are 5 mana. Yeah, but anyways, these cards are really good. They do pump your team, and then they also have like another added bonus to it. So like this one, the Glenelg Liege, this one's got flying, which is really good, and it just like pumps your team, which I really like. And then if you have ones that are blue and black, for example, they do get +2/+2, which is like really good. So overall, I really enjoy the Liege cards. I run this one in a Lila to pump my fairies, and yes, they only get +1/+1 because the fairies are only 1 color, but still, it's a really good anthem effect. I do really enjoy these cards a lot. Okay, the next card is for my artifact people out there, and that is Workshop Assistant. I think Workshop Assistant is really good. It's definitely a really good like budget card as well. It's only 3 mana, which is really good. This card is like really affordable, and I just don't really feel like I see a lot of people running this in a lot of those artifact decks. I think there's a lot of cards that do very similar things. Like, I know Mirror Retriever is 2 mana, and it does the same exact thing, but honestly, I'm not like, oh, I wouldn't run one or the other. I would just run both, if we're gonna be completely honest, if I had an artifact deck. I think I actually took this out of a Leela just because it has artifacts and enchantments in it, but I think if you're running a straight up artifact strategy, I think Workshop Assistant is a great card for you. It's also a 1/2, so it's like very easy like to use this as a chump blocker, just so that it dies, so that you get the the dies trigger. Good card. Okay, the next card, God, this is like the 5th video I've talked about Nevermore within the last like month, but you know. I really like this card. I don't know what it is about this card, but I just really like it. It's like, it's such a good commander card, and I think I said this when I mentioned it in one of my videos. I think sometimes when cards are only printed once, a lot of people like forget about them, or they don't know about them, and I think it's the same with like Nevermore. It's only ever been printed in Innistrad, and I feel like some people just don't even know that this card exists. It does exist. It's awesome. It's under $1, so it's a really good budget card. I don't see anyone running this, and this is so good to target someone's commander. I think if you're building like an artifact deck, or a Death and Taxes deck, or you just have someone in your playgroup who just has like a really annoying commander and you just want to say no, Nevermore, it's an option. I really like this card. Anyone else? Anyone else? It's one of my pet cards, for sure. Okay, the next card, people I'm sure run this card, but I think a lot of people don't because it's kind of situational, and that is Decimate. And here's what I would say about that. My thought behind Decimate is that it's one of those things where you cannot cast this card unless you have those 4 targets. And so the one issue that I feel like I would see in this card is probably enchantments. So that's why I don't think this belongs in like every red-green deck, but I will say if you're in a play group where people are running enchantments pretty consistently, I think this card's really good to run. I think it is situational, and again, it doesn't work in everything, and this card might be a card that you're like hanging on to in your hand for a couple of turns until someone plays a good enough enchantment. But one thing that I found is I found a lot of people who do run enchantments, like myself included. When I run enchantments, I'm running them like very intentionally, like they're very, very strong enchantments, if that makes sense. Like Nevermore that we mentioned before, where you're going to want to get rid of them. So Decimate's a great card. The next card is Disciple of Bolas. If you are in black and you're looking for another card draw effect, Disciple of Bolas is awesome. I think this card is so incredibly strong. It sacrifices something, which is really good for black because we have sort of like a graveyard recursion. Recurring list seems pretty good. And you do gain life from this, which is really good, and you get to draw cards. It is a little bit, one thing I will say about this card is it is a little bit like mana, I would say heavy, like it's 4 mana for this, which might not seem like a lot, but it does a lot of different things for it being 4 mana, gaining life and drawing cards, which is really good. And again, that sacrifice, I think sometimes like sacrifice is not a bad thing. Like if you have some sort of like death trigger. I run this card in Teysa and I really like it, and I just don't really feel like I see a lot of people running it. I think it's really strong, so I like Disciple of Bolas a lot. Okay, this card is like, this is just a fun card, like Spontaneous Combustion. I mean, with a name like Spontaneous Combustion, you gotta have a fun thing to go along with this. So you do have to sacrifice a creature, and then it does 3 damage across the board to each creature. It is an instant, which I really like. Again, you got that sacrifice, which can totally, you know, benefit you and like go in your favor, which I think is really good. And it deals 3 damage to everything. Now again, this is not your like, I'm gonna jam this in every sort of deck, but I think if you're playing against a lot of people in groups where they're running a lot of like things with lower power and toughness, or I guess toughness is the thing that would really matter here, I think this is like a good card to have, and it's a very good budget card as well, and just, this card's fun. I like it. Next card on my list, people I'm sure run this card, but I haven't seen a lot of people run this card, and I think it is so strong, and that is Dawn of Hope. Yes, please. This is like everything I want in a Magic card. First off, it's 2 mana, super affordable, super great to play. Like, this is a good card. Like, this is such a good like mid-range card. Do you know what I mean? You know how some cards you're like, I could draw this card on turn 2, but I could also draw this card on turn like 17, and I'd be like, this is a solid draw. So it's only when you gain life you do have to pay 2. So honestly, again, it doesn't go in every sort of deck. But even if you're like, I'm in white and I'm looking for a budget card, but I'm also looking for something that can gain me life but also make me tokens, like this card in Teysa just does everything. Like, this is like everything I want in a Magic card for Teysa. It makes tokens, it gains me life, and it draws me cards. Sorry, it doesn't gain you life. Sorry, I misspoke. I meant like when you gain life, you draw cards. So it draws you cards and it makes tokens. Like, this card's everything. And again, it's kind of a little bit of mana to make the tokens, I will say. You are just getting 1/1 with lifelink for 4 mana. I kind of wish this was like 3 mana. I think it would be like a lot more reasonable. But with that being said, I still think this card is good, and I think since you are able to pay for the majority of the 3 colorless mana, you can pay with it with your colorless rocks and things like that. So, good card. Okay, the next card that I have on my list to chat about is Smothering Abomination. And again, I think some sets like fly under the radar, and this was Battle for Zendikar, and I feel like I don't see like Battle for Zendikar impact maybe as much as like other sets, but anyways, I like Smothering Abomination a lot, and I think this card is truthfully very underrated, and it's really, really good. It is a little bit on the slow side, I will say. It's kind of like a slow burn card, and I think a lot of times some people are looking for really, really high impact cards that change the state of the game very quickly and very drastically, but honestly, I'm a fan of those slow burn cards that if you don't deal with it immediately, because a lot of times what happens is if you play this really big dumb thing, everyone's like, oh my god, I need to remove it. But if you play a lot of these cards that might not look as overwhelming, but they do more damage over time, it's like, oh, I should have removed that. And it's like, yeah, like Staff of Nin. I talk about Staff of Nin all the time, but like, this is one of those cards that when you play this card, people are like, oh, that card's bad, I don't need to remove it. And then you're like 5 turns in and you've drawn an additional 5 cards and you're just ahead so much. Again, I like that card with other spells too. It's not a matter of I run this card or this card, it's a matter of I run that, but then I also run a card like Blue Sun Zenith, for example. Anyways, I got off on a tangent there. But anyways, I really love Smothering Abomination. Devoid, whatever. It's got flying. At the beginning of our could be sack a creature. Again, this is not a bad thing. And whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. Now, what I really like about this card is that it's not just whenever you sacrifice a creature with this, it's anytime you sacrifice a creature. So if you're running a sacrifice theme deck, like I have a Mugus theme sacrifice deck, which is hilarious. And whenever you sack a thing, you get to draw a card, which is so good. And you have on the upside where you do get to sacrifice something, which is not bad. So I really like this card. And the last card, and I truthfully feel like this card is so underrated, and I don't know why I don't see people running this card, because it is truthfully such a strong removal card. Again, it's a slow burn card, and that is Anowan the Rune Sage. He is awesome. So he is 5 mana for a 4/3, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrifices a non-vampire creature. Couple things to note here. I've definitely misread this card, and I've definitely misused this card. It does say on your upkeep, so it's not something that happens on the beginning of each player's upkeep. It also says each player. So I just want to note that it is going to impact you, so just keep that in mind. If you are putting this card in one of your decks, it's going to hit you as well, so make sure that you're running cards that you don't mind going to the graveyard, or you're doing tokens where it's okay if they die. But it does say non-vampire, so it actually cannot hit him. So let's just say you have no creatures, he is the only thing remaining on your board, and then everyone sacrifices something. Again, this is one of those cards that, like, it might last for like a turn cycle, if that, and then people are like, oh, that's annoying, I have to do that every turn. And let's be completely honest here, if you're in like a 4-person game, so you are one of the people, and then you have 3 opponents, at least one of them is going to care about this card. The other 2 might be like, I've got so many dudes, like, I don't even care, but like, there's going to be someone who's like, yo, I need to remove that. I do not want to have to sacrifice something at the beginning of your upkeep. That's annoying. So I think this card is really strong and totally underutilized, and I think could go in so many different things. Again, I think though you need to play this with a very specific, like, I'm doing some sort of graveyard recursion, or I'm doing things where I don't mind, or I'm doing where they go to the graveyard, or I'm doing things with like death triggers where like I like it if things go to the graveyard. So definitely a little bit of like building around, like you can't just jam this and everything, but honestly, I think in the right shell, I think this card's really good. So guys, that is it. Those were 10 additional underrated EDH cards for you. Please like my video if you enjoyed it, to let me know that you've been really enjoying keeping up with me 2 days a week instead of 1. Let me know if you have any video requests in the down bar below. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I will catch you guys in my next one.